Hey everybody, I'm really excited about this new mini-series that I'm doing that's called Men and Pornography. It's a 3-part series, and so I hope you really enjoy this part that's coming out now. And so I just wanted to let you guys know, and kind of like a little disclaimer, that I'm not professing to be a sexologist or a theologian with the Bible or a professional in this area or anything like that. I'm just someone who's willing to share part of their story and part of their struggle, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to help someone. So enjoy this part, guys, and leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. It's mildly cloudy Thursday morning. Hope you're all doing well, and I hope that you've made yourself a nice hot drink. That's so nice. I went for a nice English breakfast tea. Just feeling that one this morning. And I hope you guys have looked at part 1 and part 2 of this little mini series called Men and Pornography. And I hope you've enjoyed them as well. And so we're up to the final part 3. And I'm really excited about this one because as I was doing research for it, this just blew my mind. It actually gave me also a sense of a different point of view of what pornography and what my thought of what sin was with pornography. And as I did this research, it actually released me of the shame of like it just being porn and sinful nature, which I'll dive into a bit more as we go, and I had to make some notes because there's just so many good things that came out of it, and I might just recap a few little things from part 1 and 2, but I want to get to the point of identifying emotional triggers, and I'll talk about that a bit later. And so the thing that was for me that released me from feeling shameful upon its porn, which equals me feeling sinful, and I couldn't break this sinful nature that I was doing, was that everyone has needs of intimacy, and they don't necessarily have a pornography addiction or a problem. They actually have intimacy problems. And they're trying to meet that, but they're going about it in an unhealthy way, or they're substituting their emotional, intimate needs with porn. And so I went from me thinking that sorry, my chair's a little squeaky. I went from feeling that I was a sinful man because every time I looked at porn, I wanted it, and I couldn't help wanting it. But in fact, I was actually craving intimacy, and I was just substituting it with pornography, which was an unhealthy thing. Because another thing is that what happens when you look at porn is that you actually set up an expectation of what intimacy is. Now, I know for a fact and personally that what you watch on what you watch on pornography is absolute garbage. That is not intimacy. That is not love. That's not the real thing of what sex is like. And also, so when you're watching porn, it sets up a bad expectation. And what happens is you set up that expectation that you put on yourself and you actually put on your partner. So that expectation, you and your partner will never be able to meet. So you disappoint yourself, and you set yourself up to fail before you've even had sex with your partner. And another thing is what it does when you're looking at porn, and what happens when you masturbate is that your body releases oxytocin. And so oxytocin is what happiness is. It makes you happy. So when you're sad and you automatically want to make yourself happy, what you do in your brain is that you put together that sadness. Okay, I need to make myself happy. Happiness equals pornography, because you've released oxytocins when you've been watching it. And so the more you do that, the more you actually become dependent on pornography being your happiness in life. And so that's where it becomes an unhealthy addiction. And so our brains connects happiness with porn. And another thing is when your intimacy isn't met by your significant other, which can be for that can be for a number of reasons. I know personally that there are times where she doesn't want to have sex. She's not in the mood. She might have had, like a bad day, or she just really isn't in the mood. And that's so fine. That is totally okay. There are going to be times where you are not in the mood and she wants to have sex, in a marriage setting, of course. And so, and again, that's okay. You're allowed to say no if you're not feeling it. And so, but the thing is, what you do from a young age is that you've connected happiness equals pornography. And when at times your partner might say no, you become disappointed, you become sad, and an emotional trigger happens. And so what happens in your brain is sadness. Okay, I need to make myself happy, which equals pornography, if you've been doing this. And so it trains you to also have a relationship with yourself. When you look at porn, it disconnects you from when you have sex with a partner. So the difference between sex with a partner and pornography is the fact that you are in control of what you want to watch, when you want to watch it, how you want to watch it, and what you do. And you do it, you release those oxytocins yourself. And you can do it faster, you can do it slower, and so you're in control. And that also, when you've had an addiction for years and years, your brain has connected that happiness equals pornography, and that's well into your brain. And when you're new to a marriage and you've only just started having sex, and it's quite not what you expected, it's still an amazing time, and you're very intimate with your partner, but it disconnects you because you've not connected that happiness with your partner equals that. And so there was another study that also says that heavy porn or heavy porn addiction can lead to sexual dysfunction with real world partners. So that basically just means the guy couldn't get an erection. It wasn't that he didn't find his wife attractive or anything like that. He couldn't get the erection because he couldn't. It wasn't what he thought in his brain what sex was like. So that's what I'm talking about, is that the expectation you bring when you look at porn creates an expectation that's not real. So I talked about figuring out what your emotional trigger is. So one of them is sadness. There are others. So it's depression, unrighteous anger, bitterness, loneliness, being alone, and there is a difference, boredom, anxiety, and being overwhelmed. They're all emotional triggers. And when I looked at that, I identified with a couple of those. So when I got sad, I would connect happiness with pornography. And another thing was revenge, or unrighteous anger. So I would, if I was angry at God, so personally, my dad passed away when I was 15 years old. I was very angry at God. And I thought that me looking at porn and being sinful would be me getting revenge back at God. And so anytime I got angry, I'd be like, right, I'm going to get back at God and I'm going to do this. I'm going to look at porn. And I started to connect those dots in my brain where revenge equals pornography. So anytime I wanted revenge on something or someone, I would automatically want to look at porn. And another one is boredom. Like, we live in a world where we want everything now, and we get it now. And we get bored very quickly. And so there were times, very young also, where if I got bored, well, I've got nothing else to do, so I'll look at porn. It makes me happy, I like to do that. And that, like, those are the things that I wanted to do when I was bored. So again, my brain started to connect the dots. Boredom equals pornography. Revenge equaled pornography. Sadness equals pornography. And this is how my addiction became so unhealthy and bad, is because of all of these emotional triggers that were happening. And so identifying what your emotional trigger is going to be so helpful in you overcoming your addiction with porn. I talked about in part 1 the importance of having a coach or mentor. When you identify with an emotional trigger and you notice that you're about to, like, this trigger's about to happen, whether you're starting to become sad or become bored or you feel a bit depressed, that's the moment you call your coach or mentor and be like, hey, I just wanted to chat because I'm starting to feel sad, and hopefully you had that conversation beforehand, that you know what your emotional trigger is, and that coach or mentor knows, and you say, look, I'm starting to feel sad and I don't want to look at porn. And they can just talk with you for 20 minutes, half an hour, and get that off your mind, or change how you feel. Now, they're not the saving grace of every single time. Another one is that you should pray at that time. The moment you feel sad, be like, God, like, I'm feeling sad, I don't want to look at porn. And as soon as I get into my sadness, I know I'm not going to be able to have the strength. So give me strength to get out of this sadness. And rely on God as well. That's a huge thing. So your coach or mentor, God, all of those things, that's how you can overcome your porn addiction. Now, I talked about you might not have a porn addiction, but you might have intimacy problems. And I had a thought about how, especially in this time with COVID-19, like, I live by myself. I live alone, and I don't have anyone to cuddle or hug. And so it's extremely hard in this time. Once this all blows over, have a think about this in creating healthy friendships where you hug your friends and family more. And also this is really hard especially in Christian circles, because we sometimes judge, especially in church, when a male and a female hug quite a bit, and you start to think, oh, something's happening there, or, stop. Don't do that. Sure, they might be trying to flirt with them, and that's awesome. Go for it. Try. Do it within good boundaries, of course, and communicating with that person. But another thing is, they just might be needing their love tank filled, and they hug friends and family. They might shake each other's hands. A lot of guys do that. I know I do that. I shake a lot of guys' hands. And so these are ways that you can overcome your intimacy problems, is creating healthy friendships with family and friends. Now, of course, you need boundaries, physical boundaries, especially when you do have a boyfriend and girlfriend, and you guys need to talk about those boundaries, and you need to try and stick with them. I often say, if you are in a couple, find some couple coach or mentors that you can also be honest with. So, identify your emotional triggers, guys. Find yourself a coach or mentor that you can talk with and be honest with, and also know that the expectation that you're putting on yourself and your partner when you look at porn is setting yourselves up to fail immediately. And so, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this time, these 3 parts on men and pornography, and create healthy friendships, all of those things. I hope you took some notes, and it's goodbye for now for this series. I've really enjoyed it, and do some research on some emotional triggers. Look up emotional triggers in pornography, and there'll be a bunch of sites that'll come up from well-trained professional psychologists. And yeah, go be a blessing to someone else, and peace out.